Water.
Seriously, I deserve wine. After the last couple of days that I've had, where are my Louisiana viewers on here? Y'all, come on, Louisiana. Let's say some prayers for that group right there. Hold on a second. We got a lot of panelists right now. Have you guys noticed that? Just a second. There we go. Okay. Literally, Louisiana needs your guys' prayers, and I needed your prayers at 2 a.m. last night, backing up the Mini Winnie and this long trailer amongst police officers that were like, get out. I was like, oh my gosh, rushing water. I was like, oh, good Lord, you guys. Like, I was like, Mariana, I was like, part my Red Sea. I was in you know what I mean? Come here. I got a surprise for you guys. Look who I get to have a glass of wine with. Does everybody know?
Come on, too. Hi, Mariana.
Everybody say hi. This is my girl. Most of you guys have talked to her. She's helped you through a lot of different things. So I actually get to hug her today. So this is who I couldn't wait to get to. So you don't have to sit up here with us if you don't want to, unless you have something to add. But I have Erin Booker and Liz about to rock this sucker. So you guys, real quick, let's talk about some things. We got a lot of awesome things going on. If you are unaware of some of the things, and some of you guys are newer coaches, make sure you go to your back office to see what's hot right now. We have the health bet coming out. We have the 20s, you know, which anybody watch the 20s yet to see who's winning that new personal training or whatever instructor spot? I don't know. I don't have enough hours in my day sometimes to get my power hour in, let alone watch a reality TV show. So it's not on my to-do list, but it's kind of fun. And then, of course, we have Core Day Force that came out, and Megan Walton and Fit and Fierce, they posted a video where they had Jericho on live. So you guys, if you have questions about that and you want to really plug into what's going to come out with that and how to maximize that in your business and even for your own fitness journey, you guys watch that. You know, be in the know, be hungry for knowledge and the best version of yourself. That's absolutely key. So let's do some shout outs real quick. And you guys know we have a lot of shout outs. I can't possibly go through all of them. Every month we do a Road to Success shout out, and that is pinned at the top of our team page that you can enter in what you have accomplished this month. We have both title recognition, we have work ethic recognition, and you guys know what my favorite one is, right? Can anybody guess what my favorite type of recognition is? It's the work ethic recognition. So those of you that have completed Like a Boss training, let's go through that real quick, because that, if you become a student of that, you guys have to understand, 5 years ago, I became a student of Danny Johnson's First Steps to Success, and I sat in her audience amongst over 1,000 people each time, 900 to 1,100 people each time. But each time I was sitting there, it was just me and Danny. She didn't know it, but me and her, we like this. You know what I mean? And we were, you know, and I just became a student of that material. So I'm asking you guys, the material in Like a Boss training is something I failed my way to where I am, you know, learning through Danny and learning through Maxwell and Shalene Johnson and all kinds of things, learning with Melissa McAllister and Janelle Summers and the top coaches in this organization. And so hopefully I can help you catch your face before it hits the ground like mine did a few times. But that's the recipe. And like Danny says, if you try to substitute fat-free cream cheese, you're not going to get the same cheesecake, right? And so you can't expect, I'm not going to beg you to want to make 6 figures, or let's be honest, 7 figures. I'm not going to beg you to want to make that, but I am going to put the recipe out there, but you have to do your part. Does that make sense? So I want to shout out those people that have completed that, but I'm going to ask these people to go one step further and not just go through it once, but to go through it 5 times. You guys are like, wait, what? How many times? Yeah. 5 times. I've been following Danny for 5 years. I'm going to ask you to go through it 5 times, become a student of it. So Stephanie Williams has completed Like a Boss training. Echo Royal, Valerie, and I'm going to screw up some of these names, I know, so please give me a little grace. Arbogast, Jacqueline Cardenas. Did I say that right? Jen Yoder, who also finished a program. You guys, how many of you guys have been following Jen Yoder? The girl has been a hot mess. And I say that with so much love over the last month, girl, watching you move with the military and be stuck in hotel rooms and all over the place and traveling. And she completed a program for real, man. Come on, you guys. Push play, okay? Jen Yoder, high five. Casey Gregory, Wendy Haig has completed it. Jamie Boyer, has completed. Now, Jamie Boyer is someone been with me for a really long time, and she could go back and complete. I know Kessa Hawkins and her team has gone back and completed it. You guys don't ever get to that spot where you're not hungry for knowledge. When you know what the Greatest Success book says, fools reject knowledge, and we could use biblical verses for that, but since I'm drinking wine, I can't remember what it is. Right. But you guys get what I'm saying. If you aren't hungry for knowledge, then you're a fool, right? Because there are people that have come before you. So when Janelle Summers talks, I show up. Does that make sense? When Christine Dwyer talks, I show up. When Danny Johnson talks, I show up. Shalene Johnson, do you see what I'm saying? Hungry, always hungry to go. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're wrong. Does that make sense, right, Erin? I feel like you're like, wait a second, what's going to come out of Summer's mouth? That's how I feel like you're like leaning back, like, what's she going to say today? But if you're the smartest person in the room, you're wrong. Okay, so just the key to this business, you guys, is to remain hungry, to be the best version of yourself. And I know I didn't hit all the people, but I want to make sure that Erin and Liz have 30 minutes to deliver their message. But you guys, I cannot express to you how important it is to follow the recipe. People are not duplicatable. Systems are. Do you guys understand? People, repeat after me, write this down. People are not duplicatable. I am not duplicatable, okay? Systems are duplicatable. So if your challenge group template is too complicated, you're not duplicatable. And how do you tell if you're not duplicatable? If you don't have people signing up on your team after going through your challenge group, but they're sticking with you because they're getting really great results, right? But they're sticking with you, but they're not like, you know what? I can do that. You know what? People have, Danny Johnson talks about, they ask themselves, can I do this? If they don't believe they can do it, they won't duplicate you. And we're going to reach more people the more as you duplicate yourself. They're going to reach people that you didn't even know exist. I mean, Erin Booker, how many people have you reached that never would have crossed my circle of influence? Think about that. Liz Tafel, Angela Thornhill, Sherry Beasley. I mean, think about that. Jessica Rodriguez, Casey Walls. I mean, think about that. If I never was duplicatable, it would go back to me in personal training and the 8 people that I could help a month, and that's exactly where it would stay. So you have always got to be asking yourself, am I duplicatable and am I hungry to learn? Or have I kind of came up with my own challenge group way? Or have I come up with my own system? I come up with my own system because this one, it's good for Summer. It probably works for her, but I'm going to create my own. You have to rethink that, okay? Because there's lots of 6-figure 7 earners on this team that have used the same system. So you guys, without further ado, you have the amazing Erin Booker and Liz Tafel on tonight, and they're going to help you redefine success. With you guys know that this is a this topic is very near and dear to my heart because I think we can chase worldly definitions and we can chase what's going on stage. They're chasing the carrots. How many of you guys have read Lead for God's Sake? How many? Yes. Please tell me that you have, because you can chase the carrot or you can lead with the hammer, but you have to lead with the heart. And that's when you start to lead with the heart, you start to develop you start to give yourself permission to define success. And that's exactly what Liz and Erin are going to do for you tonight. And I'm not going to do a huge introduction for them because I want them to tell you their story, their 30-second story. But these are 2 diamond coaches that watched me for a while. Liz, how long did you watch me?
Well, I've known you since you started. So what, 9 years? It's been almost 2 years in February.
Yeah. So watch me for a while. Erin, how long while you watched me on social media?
Probably almost a year.
Yeah, right. So you guys see what I'm saying? So you got people that are probably watching you on social media or in your life, and just because they're not ready doesn't mean, can you imagine? Liz and I, incredibly close, okay? Incredibly close. She was there for me at a very hard time in my life in Meridian, Mississippi. Can you imagine if I was like, you know what? Liz isn't game, so maybe it's not really where I should be. You know what I mean? So some of you might be thinking that, and I want you to step back and listen to what Liz and Erin have to tell you, because they're going to help you redefine success right after they tell their story. So which one of you guys are going to start so I can make sure I pin you on the video?
Erin.
Woo! Okay, girlfriend, you got the stage.
All right. Hi, everybody. So I think most of you know me, but I'll share my 30-second story really quickly. I have been a coach on the team for about a year and a half almost now. Liz and I actually signed up, I think, within like a week of each other. So that's been pretty cool. We've been kind of on this journey together. Before Beachbody, quite frankly, I'd lost a good amount of weight and I was still miserable. I was absolutely carrying the scale behind me on a chain. It was like my ball and chain. And I defined myself by that number, which means I always defined myself as a failure because that number was never where I wanted to be, and I was truly in prison. My marriage was suffering. I wasn't the mother I wanted to be. I had a new baby. And I just wasn't happy. And I woke up every day unhappy, not excited, not thriving at all, quite honestly, barely surviving. And since becoming a coach and plugging in with Summer and really following her feet, and I legitimately do everything she tells me to do, going to Danny and other events pretty consistently. I'm not perfect, and I certainly still struggle, but I can do things that I never thought I could do. You know, we were laughing today. I went on a live video in a sports bra today. I mean, that's crazy. This girl weighed 500 pounds, and here I am purposely showing my full body so people can recognize the importance of loving themselves. So today I wake up every day and I'm excited to see what the day's going to bring. And when I'm struggling, I have a community that loves me even when I'm struggling and supports me. So that's pretty much I'm not in bondage anymore. I mean, I think that's kind of the most important part. Days sometimes suck, but my life in general is amazing.
Yeah, I'll never forget talking for the first time with you, Erin, on the phone. You know, I know exactly where I was sitting in California by the outdoor fireplace, listening to your stories, and you wanted to run a Tough Mudder and all kinds of stuff. So to see how far you've come, you know, even with your relationship with your mom and your dad. I mean, I remember that conversation, you guys. It's things that, you know, those are changes in our life that you can't even put a price tag on it. Would you agree, Erin?
Oh, absolutely. I have spent 20 years convincing myself that I was the failure of the family and my father didn't love me. I mean, we'll just put it all very clearly out there. And through this, my father and I have been able to reconnect and have the best relationship that we've ever had.
That's incredible. And you literally can't put a price tag on that at all. At all. Absolutely incredible. All right, Liz, I know where I was talking to you at the time that we had our conversation where you came to your pain point. I was also in California, but this time I was in my bedroom versus out by the fireplace. And I remember hearing your story, but I want you to tell it. So go ahead.
Okay, well, so I mean, Summer's right. I've known her for a very long time, and I watched her for, you know, probably at least 5 years before I even called her to do challenge groups. And anyway, through 8 months of challenge groups, I lost weight. I loved the community, and it was just, to me, it was just invaluable to have this amazing group of people who wanted to lift each other up and encourage each other and celebrate each other. And you know, I was out in Hawaii all by myself pretty much. And I had some good friends out there, but it just wasn't quite the same, I guess. So it's pretty lonely. We knew we had our transition out of the military coming up, which I think is what Summer is probably referring to, because we were starting to try to figure out what the heck we were going to do and how we were going to afford our lives. And, you know, we had lost the opportunity to get out early, and therefore essentially we would have been paid to leave the military, and that would have helped us get rid of our debt, helped us sell our house in North Carolina, helped us move forward with a lot more peace. And you know, I think that was my pain point, because I just felt like I can't let this all be on Addison's shoulders anymore. Like, I didn't want him. I just saw the stress in him every single day, you know, worrying about how he was going to carry us and how he's going to support us. And I don't want to cry about it, but it was really hard on our marriage. And we just kept trying to cut more and more and more of our spending, to the point where we just were totally miserable. And Summer had called actually to ask me about writing meal plan guides, I think is what we originally were talking about.
They were good. You had some good recipes.
Because I love to cook. And so, and by the end of it, I think I cried for like a solid hour, and she was like, okay, one more time, like year 5, I'm just going to say it one more time. Why are you not coaching? You know? And so I was like, fine, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm totally going to do it. And I mean, that was it. And it was a game changer for my entire life. There isn't any, everything Erin said is totally true. It's just been such a gift to be a part of the community. So
yeah, you guys have to see where it started. In all honesty, and where I was talking there, I always talk to you for some reason in the bedroom, Liz. I'm not really sure why and what the meaning is behind that. But you, the first time we talked was you had James, and I think maybe he was 4 or 5 months old. That might be right. And you would cry when you saw the other moms, when you would drop Owen off, because you didn't understand, how to overcome how you felt, you know what I mean? And you guys have to understand, Liz ran all the time when we lived by each other, and she really didn't need that stuff that I was doing, you know what I mean? And she drank the shake maybe, but she didn't really need it. You know what I mean? And she was my friend. I wasn't gonna, I'm not into manipulation or anything like that. But finally out there, I said, Liz, what do you have to lose, man? Let me help you. And she did. And Liz, how much weight did you lose?
45-ish pounds.
45 flipping pounds. And she was banging her head against the wall trying to lose it. And that's where we started. Both of these girls started in challenge groups, getting success, feeling mentally, emotionally, and physically stronger, and then finding out what their need was. And for Liz, you guys, it was what she just told you. You know what I mean? And then you work with them. And I mean, and now they're on a webinar sharing with you guys, entrepreneurial success and how they've gotten where they are, and how, the different things that they're able to pay for now and where they're going and all that kind of stuff. You guys have to understand, like, most people start off most people don't come into this business thinking like, I'm going to make 6 figures. You know what I mean? Most teams are built little by little with small victories, like Maxwell talks about. Do you know what I mean? While Chad gave me that goal, like joking around, really the 6-figure goal, he was really making fun of me. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? He gave me something, he thought 6 figures, whatever, this little at-home Cincy business, as he would say, like he just gave me something stupid to shoot for. And really, like, all along the way, it was just little things of paying off this credit card and this credit card, and just little small victories, which is what most teams are built on. Most people, that's where their confidence starts to grow. The same way in challenge groups. Most people, Erin, did you come in thinking like, I'm going to lose 100 pounds with Beachbody?
Not at all.
No. Most people don't even believe they're capable of it. We have to remember that when we're building our teams and our challenge groups and speaking life into people. We have to understand, don't forget where you came from. For those of you that have stopped smoking or stopped drinking or completely changed your life around, don't forget where you came from and where most people's mindsets are when you're running your social media and you're talking to people, Give them the same grace that your upline gave you, and allow them to redefine success, which is exactly what Liz and Erin are going to talk about today. Did you like that segue? That was pretty good, right?
That's good.
All right, who's up? Erin, are you leading?
No, I got it.
No, Liz is.
Go, girl.
All right, you guys, I'm really glad you're here because probably for the last, 5 months, Erin and I have been talking on and on about this topic, and I have mentioned it to Summer several times. So we really feel strongly about it. It's been on our hearts for a while. And Erin and I come at it from different places. And so our hope is that what we have to say, resonates with you in an encouraging way as you grow in this business and your life ebbs and flows and stuff like that. So, from what you just heard between Erin and Summer and me, this business is so much bigger than just that, than a shake and a fitness program or these webinars, whatever. It's an amazing opportunity. And one of the reasons it's so amazing is because no matter what your vision is or what your goals are, it can ebb and flow and work with your life, not against it. If you are intentional about how you fit it in the cracks and how you choose to make it a part of your life. I'm pretty sure everybody on this call is human, right? So, life's messy. I mean, I know oh my gosh, my days are crazy. We all have different challenges and, different obstacles, both daily in our lives and also when we go through phases of higher intensity, difficulties or obstacles, whether it's a new baby or, divorce or I don't know, I just moved across country. So that was my phase. And how you approach those scenarios is really what this topic of redefining success for us is all about. It's why it kept coming up over and over and over again, for myself and for Erin and for a lot of you, I'm sure it either has come up or it will in the future because life isn't perfect and we just do the best that we can. And when we say redefine success, we're not saying on just a random day you impulsively or spontaneously like decide not to do anything or just throw your hands up and, it's just a day you don't feel like doing something or anything like that. We're talking about adjusting your expectations in a very, very intentional way that still allows you to keep moving forward in a positive direction, but lets you feel good about it instead of feeling overwhelmed and burned out, or worse, like you want to quit. Which I think a lot of us will own it and say that there are times when it does feel a little overwhelming, and we have to step back and reconsider what we're doing and why we feel that way. Redefining success is more about celebrating what you can do, no matter what your circumstances are, and feeling satisfied at the end of the day, that you are enough and that you've done enough. So for me, I'm going to share my kind of redefining success moment, and then Erin's going to share, her story too, so that you guys can kind of see, the way it works for both of us. So my moment came probably mid-April last year. And we were anticipating getting out and just everything was just feeling really overwhelming. I don't really know how else to explain it. So I have an awesome push partner and really great friend, Jessica Williams, and I called her and I don't even think I got 2 words out before I started crying. And I just said, I don't know if I can do this. And she was like, hold on, let's redefine what success is. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's genius. I mean, it's not, it seems like such an obvious concept, but when you feel that way, it's not always obvious. You know what I mean? So, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Okay. So what does that look like for me? And I realized that what I was doing was I was way off balance. I was sacrificing, like Summer says, sometimes I was sacrificing my why for my why. Like I was snapping at my kids. I was snapping at Addison. I was, just like so excited for the day to be over every day. And when I woke up in the morning, I didn't want to get out of bed. It was just, I was burning the candle at both ends. And I wasn't being as intentional as I should have been about my priorities and what really mattered to me. Now, all of us have different goals and different visions for our businesses. Mine is in my mind, it's a big one. And so, I just to give some examples of how I redefine success. What I was doing was, 6 workouts a week and Teamsy 5 days a week and 3, like everything I was maxing out all of the business goals, all of the recipe, I was maxing it out. And I just felt like I couldn't do it all anymore. My kids needed me. We didn't have all of our furniture. We had already shipped it across the country. And, Addison had work trips back to back. I was a single mom. My friends were all leaving and we were saying goodbye to all these people. It was just a very emotional and tumultuous time. And so, I really had to step back and say, one of my favorite quotes is, change the plan, not the goal. And so, you know, if you're driving along at 75 miles an hour to go, whatever, pick your husband up from a homecoming, and you get a flat tire, you don't just sit on the side of the road and, well, I'm not going, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, no, I would walk there if I had to. You know what I mean? It's like you just find another way. And so what I did was, for me, you know, instead of 6 workouts a week, I was like, all right, I'm going to commit to 4. Instead of 5 days a week of Teamsy, I'm going to commit to 4. Instead of, you know, 2 or 3 social media posts a day, I'm going to do 1 meaningful one, and anything else is bonus. Like, I just tried to decide what made me feel good and what made me feel like I was moving forward without feeling like I was going to completely crumble at the end of every day, you know. And it was amazing what taking that pressure off did for my soul. Like, it almost reignited my fire, because I was like, no, I can still do this. I can still do this. I can still move forward. You know, I can put one foot in front of the other. I don't have to quit. I don't want to quit. Like, this community it's priceless. There's no way I would ever give this up. At my core, there's no way, you know. And that was that conversation with Jessica. I said that to her. I was like, I got to figure out a way to make this work and fit in a way that feels so good, like it did before all this crazy moving across the country, you know. And we're still in the midst of transition. I wish I could show you where I'm sitting right now. I mean, it's just, there's stuff everywhere. But I still have, I mean, I've stepped back still a little bit, but I'm still very intentional. Everything is scheduled on my calendar. I know my priorities, you know, I know the goals for each day. And when I have time to go above and beyond, I do. But if I don't, I'm okay at the end of the day. And I think that that's important for all of us. You know what I mean? That just being here and showing up and doing what you can should be celebrated, you know. Erin, you want to share your redefining success?
Yeah, that was awesome. I just have to say, Liz, because I've known Liz my whole coaching career, and now that you're back where you are, your accent has gotten stronger.
Oh my gosh.
That's so funny. All right. Anyway, sorry. I think, you know, mine is a little bit different. You know, when Liz and I were talking about this, and like she said, we've been talking about this. You know, I work full time. I run, you know, this is not like, I'm not bragging. My job is that I run an entire service line for a hospital system. So I am in charge of all of behavioral health for a hospital system. It's not a small feat to do my job. And there's a certain time of year where my job goes from really stressful to insanely stressful. And that's called budget season. When I have to write budgets for every single part of my service line, my life becomes consumed. And this is my first year in this job. So when budget season hit, it collided with, at the exact same time, my youngest son, my now 6-year-old, starting to have some pretty significant behavioral issues. And I had to jump in and really support him and be there for him and get him involved in some services while writing budgets and learning this whole new system, and trying to still be a parent that was present for my other 2 kids and a wife that was present. And I remember having this complete moment of, I haven't invited anyone in 2 days. Crap, I haven't done a power hour in 2 days. And I'm usually pretty darn consistent. And I hadn't worked out and I was eating crap. And I was like, this is not good. This is not what I want. And then it was like, okay. So I started really digging in and getting my power hours. And then one night my 8-year-old son looked at me and he went, "Hey Mom, you think you could put that phone down for a little while?" And I was like, oh. And it was the biggest gut punch, because Mom was on her laptop writing budgets, or Mom was on the phone doing invites. Mom was not present. And so I've always been a slower business builder. But what I recognized was that I was absolutely sacrificing my why for my why. My full-time job, the budgets had to get turned in. It had to happen. But that was when I started to get up at 4 something in the morning and work out and do my power hour in the morning, because I could do that, go to work, come home, and then be a mom and a wife. And I didn't have to worry anymore, because I could check off the box that I moved my business forward. And I kept it as a job, and I treated it with the respect of a job, but that didn't come at the the price of my kids, or my husband. Because I wasn't a fun person to be around. We'll just be really honest. Some of you were around during that time, and I wasn't the most happy human. And I wasn't happy because I had put this expectation on myself that was unrealistic. And so I think that it's really, really important, you guys, to remember that again, we're not saying I'm having a bad day, so I'm changing the whole plan. We're saying sitting down with some true intentionality. I mean, I called Summer and said, I'm not really sure what to do, but I kind of feel like everything's crashing around me. And while I love this community, and quite frankly, in those moments, that's what kept me here, is the community. Because when I wanted to be like, oh, I'm done, can't do it, I thought, then I won't see all my friends. I don't like that. So, that's what kept me plugging away. But I made very intentional changes. So, I was erratically doing everything to move my business forward. I set a schedule. I committed to, quite frankly, going back down to the bare minimum. Now I do invite more than I did then. And you know what? When budget season comes this year again, I will redefine success again, and I will pare down, because I know now what I need to do to be in a good space all around. So, be intentional with it. It is not an excuse for slacking, and we want to be very, very clear on that. This is a job, and you have to treat it as a job. I have not always been great at that. In fact, today we got that reminder in our Danny group. Gut punch, Tucker, gut punch. Are you being intentional? Are you, staying in phase one? Are you doing all of these things that are the recipe for success? And the truth is that I've had times where I haven't, and it's when I'm not being intentional and I'm overwhelmed. And so this is a really important moment to remember to take a step back. Always talk to the people that you trust. This is very, very important. Do not make decisions based on people's feedback that don't have what you want, right? And you don't respect how they got there. That's huge, and I think that that's a really big thing. And just like a silly example of that is that the Success Club trip for Beachbody either starts or ends on my daughter's birthday. Summit, my son's birthday, is in the middle of. And I was like, awesome. This is great. Beachbody does 2 huge things a year, and they hit 2 of my birthdays. Great. But I had a conversation with Summer, and I had a conversation with some of the people that I trust on this team. And I talked to Blaine Phillips. I talked to Wendy Rice. I talked to my husband, people who's I trust, and I was able to say, Success Club is not what I like. That trip is fun, but that's not that's a little bit different than Summit. So Summit I will be at. Success Club trip I won't be. Because my daughter, that's not to me the same as Summit as far as moving my business forward. And I got that from a conversation with trusted advisors. And so I want to make sure that if you're redefining success, that you are reaching out to those people you really trust.
That's good. And I'm holding 2 fingers up, being like, okay, I have 2 points because I can't find pen and paper to write down. But I want to hit on some things that Erin just said. 2 things that she just said. She got up earlier, and that's something that Tracy, that Mara and I were waiting to walk out for the Millionaires Club, and we were just leaning against the wall, sweating our tail off and missing everything at Summit and talking. And we started talking about where you start to sacrifice your time. Scotty Hobbs walked up and we started talking about where our time where we should be sacrificing time and where we shouldn't. And it shouldn't be when our kids are like, hey, can I play trains with you? I did a whole Summit. How many of you guys were there at Summit when Jessica Rodriguez and I and some people did that? And we did it. It was a joke. Like, I was in the back of the curtain and we flushed the toilet, and I was like, one more, I'll be out in a second. And lo and behold, I looked like I was pooping for 45 minutes. How many of you guys escape to the bathroom and you're like, I'm pooping? Bull crap. No, you're not. You know what I mean? You're working. You know what I mean? Like, we start to do that junk. You know what I mean? And Tracy and I were laughing about it, and Scotty Hobbs, and and we were saying, like, you know what? As parents, you look at your calendar, you look at what can go and what can't, and guess what can go? You can sacrifice an hour of sleep. Now, I'm not saying, and Tracy Marr and I were very clarifying with people that were standing around us, we're not saying get 4 hours of sleep, but if you're used to 8 hours of sleep and you want to build a vision, you might have to have 6 for a little while. Does that make sense? Versus telling your kids one more message, get your tail out of bed and work on your vision. Does that make sense? And the other thing so that was one point, is look at where you're cutting your time to fit in the business. If you have a very real why, I've said this forever, do not sacrifice your why for your why. Do you know what I mean? And so Tuesday nights are the nights I work. I did a mentorship call before this, regardless of where I'm at. Downstairs is a GM of Global Dynasty. Danny Johnson's team is downstairs. Her whole entire team, and I am up here. Does that make sense? Like Tuesday, I told them Tuesdays when I work, I'll come over. Go ahead, you deliver my dinner to me. I'm working. This is my job. Wednesday night, tomorrow, we're all supposed to play volleyball. I'm not working tomorrow night. You can't get me on the phone. You can't text me. Does that make sense? I do work, do you know what I mean, on Tuesday nights, period, end of story, regardless of what anybody asks me to do. I've done that for 7 years. I've been on webinars, you know what I mean, 1 night a week. And some of us are like, well, I don't feel like it tonight and all that kind of stuff. Well, then you just have to ask yourself, how serious are you about what you're fighting for? So that's the first one. What are you willing to sacrifice? You communicate with Chad. He knew before we came over here. Mariana knew before I came over here. Butch knew before I came over here. Elena knew before I came over here. Peter knew they all knew before I came over here that I had work starting at a certain time. Okay. The second piece is I work with a 15-star coach that she totally shared her heart with us the other day. Well, it was probably like 6 months ago. Last Summit, her daughter had to come with her to Summit. You want to know why? She was cutting. You want to know what she remembers? Her 13-year-old daughter saying, hey, Mom, can we do something? Can we read a book? And she's like, one more message. I'm pushing for this. And she tells the story. She's not shy about it. One more. And she wishes that she could go back, get up earlier, versus that time that 13-year-old was sitting there just staring at her like, hey, Mom, one more, Mom, you said one more, can we, she tells the story very real and raw, and lo and behold, to get her mom's attention, and she tells the story. Do you know what I mean? And so she had to bring her mom, her daughter, with her to Summit to protect her from doing that and to build that bond and that trust back up, and you have to be aware of those things. Okay. So I personally, and Tracy Morrow was back there talking with Scotty Hobbs and and she was like, you know what? When Casey, that's her husband, when he goes to bed at 10, guess what? She gets up and that's when she works from 10 to 12. Then she goes to bed from 12 to 6 and she gets back up and she works. And as soon as her kids are up, she has 6, it shuts. And she's focused on them. You can't text her. You can't anything. That is discipline. Those are boundaries, and that's a very real business. And that's how it's built. Does that make sense? Without sacrificing your why for your why. You don't have to, if your kids are at home with you, you don't have to stick them in childcare. You know what I mean? You just have to be disciplined. Get up at 5 instead of, and set your boundaries. Our kids don't come out of the room, period, end of story, till 7, period. Because obey right now. Back in your room. Does that make sense? And we have those boundaries. Those are just things that you have to set and you have to control. And then when they're up, they're up. Play trains, man. You can't get that day back where you get to play trains. You guys understand what I'm saying? There's a little girl in our spiritual group that went off to school, rode her bike, didn't put a helmet on, got hit crossing the street, and did not recover. You guys, you understand me? We're not guaranteed another day. So instead of thinking you need your extra hours of sleep and you have a vision to build, get up at 6, work your power hour. This business doesn't take more than an hour. Bull crap. If you're sitting there and you're still working 4 hours later, that means you're just dicking around. I'm going to be honest. You're doing things that you shouldn't be doing. You're recreating the wheel. You're recreating the challenge groups. You're recreating the system. You're recreating everything. Sit down, invite your team, shut the computer, and play trains. And make sure your kids have their helmet on. End of story. Okay, who's next? Who's up, Liz? You up?
Oh, I can go. So, all right. So everything you guys heard, all of the stuff about being intentional, that all comes from an amazing guy named John Maxwell. And Erin and I were just talking on the phone the other day about how our very first call with him, we got punched in the face because he was saying that if you say X, Y, and Z are your priorities and they don't show up on your calendar, like Summer was just saying, they're not your priorities. Period. And, so that was like the first time we were all like, oh my gosh, wait, what? We have to write down like time with Addison. Like, yeah, I had to write it down. Like, that's crazy, right? Anyway, totally did. And it was kind of fun though. I was like, hey babe, look, you're on the calendar. You are a priority because I wrote your name down. Anyway, yeah, it was like, and we couldn't afford date nights out. So, Hawaii cost of living is like ridiculous. And so I was like, look, we have a date. It's right here. I'm buying a bottle of wine. We're watching a movie. And he's like, all right. Anyway, my point is, it'll show up on your calendar if it matters to you. And so one of the things that our team actually has, and I don't remember who created this document in particular. There's several of them floating around, but a lot of us refer to it as the buckets document, but it has to do with identifying your top 5 priorities. Yeah, that Erin's holding it up right now if you guys can see her. And figuring out what action steps or what needs to happen within those categories during your week to make you feel balanced, and to make you feel like you're accomplishing the things that you need to accomplish and making sure that your why stays your why, basically. So Erin, you want to talk about how you make that happen, girl?
Yeah. So we both definitely got punched right in the gut by John Maxwell, and I got it again at Dynasty when we talked about time secrets, and I was like, oh, this is just going to keep punching me in the stomach. So here's the thing, you guys, this is the form Summer posted it in the group. So, and we're not going to ask you to write it right now. I know mine's blank because I have an older one that's done. But, Summer asked us to do this at the beginning of the new year. And the truth is this. And I looked at this today and thought, crap. Because there's things that I claim to have as a priority and I've given no honor to. And that's a real gut punch. And so I got that really, really nice reminder today. Thank you, Summer Tucker. You have reminded me of lots of things this week. But I think, listen, I do sit down every week on Sundays. My husband and I sit down, and I am intentional about putting in my calendar because I do have 3 children. I do work a full-time job. I do work my Beachbody job. And I had to make sure that everything that I actually care about was showing up. So on here, you're going to put your 5 priorities. And here's where I got punched in the face. And I'm going to be really honest. One of my my number 1 priority, let's just be really honest. My number 1 priority that I wrote down was building a relationship with God. It was something that I really struggle with, that I have had a lot of difficulty. If anyone can see Summer's face, you just saw her reaction. She's like, oh, wow, that's surprising. It's surprising because I've sucked at it. I have not given it the respect that I know it deserves and that I know I need to. So for me, it's something that I recognize today, and it's already going to be put in place. I've scheduled it into my day as of tomorrow, because as soon as I recognized that I wasn't doing it, my calendar changed. But there's things that I say no to because they don't fit into these priorities. So we're asking you to take your top 5 priorities, and then what do you need to do to fulfill those priorities? What, like, so one of mine is my marriage. Number 2 priority is my marriage and my relationship with my husband. So my things were weekly date night, an increase in intimacy, because we should, and to support his dreams and really give him the time that he needs to build his dreams intentionally. And so part of what goes into our calendar is the time he needs to build his dreams, because while he's supporting me building my Beachbody team, I have to support him in his. So we're asking you to really, break it down. What are your 3 action steps? Because saying something's a priority and not having an action plan to make that true, it's not really going to get anywhere. Writing something down and doing nothing about it, like I recognize today that I do, or I did, it's not going to get you where you want to go. So keep this present. This is going to be hanging in my office now instead of in the drawer where I pulled it out of. Sorry, Summer. But you guys, so here's my challenge to you. Summer has posted this in the group. Please pull it out, print it, get it, fill it out, and then post it. Make yourself accountable to live up to your priorities. I'm going to take a picture of mine that's already filled out, and I'm going to post it. There's also on the side your goals. So you want to write your goals for the year or for the next 12 months. So I want you to be really intentional with identifying your goals. Make sure they're linking up with your priorities. So we're going to hope to see, that's the request. And what I have learned in this is when someone tells you to do something, shut up and follow directions. So we're going to be looking for these in the team pages. That's it.
That's good, Erin. And that millimeter adjustment, like, Erin, when's the last time you pulled that out? May? What'd you say?
It's been probably about 2 months. Let's see.
Keeping that front and center, you guys. I love how she fell on her sword. That's what leaders do. We don't cover it up. You know what I mean? We call it like it is, and especially on ourselves, and that's that millimeter adjustment that if Erin would have pulled it out 1 month and 3 weeks ago, she could have made her millimeter adjustments that she needed to make. And that's what keeps you from 2 months being in Pakistan, like I talked about at Summit or wherever Chad corrected me, wherever I said he was at. Where did I say he was at? Does anyone?
Syria.
Yeah.
Would never end up in Syria. So it would keep you from getting in Pakistan and being you in friendly flying zone. You know what I mean? If you look down, like, okay, so, and Liz knows this, from flying, is they have to look down at their instruments. They're looking up at the horizon. They're looking at the instruments. They're looking up at the horizon, checking it, right? If all they do is fly this way, you're, what do they call it, Liz, when you think you know where you're at and you can actually be upside down?
Oh, you're like situational awareness.
Yeah, they can actually be upside down and fly themselves into, the ground or whatever if they're not looking and adjusting and looking and adjusting. That's what we're doing. We're living our life. We're adjusting, looking down. Or is it lining up? You know what I mean? Because if all we do is do this and we go by emotion and we go at what we think should be right and all that kind of stuff, we can fly our life right into the ground. This is vital, you guys. If you have a vision for your life, you have to know where you're flying it. Okay, and these millimeter adjustments, it might not look like anything right now, and it might not even look like anything 3 months from now, but 10 years from now, if you haven't made your marriage a priority, you flew that sucker into the ground and you know it. You know what I mean? 10 years from now, not having sex, not going on date nights, not getting away, not making each other a priority. That's what you have. Same thing with this business. It's those millimeter adjustments, and this is one way to keep it in front of your face. How am I doing? Real leaders evaluate themselves. Real leaders can go a step further and ask their spouse, hand it over here, like, hey, babe, I give you permission with love to correct me when I'm not following this? How many of y'all are brave enough to do that one and to let your husband say, hey, babe, you are off? That's how you really stay on track. That's why Chad had an ECMO. You know what I mean? Because Chad could get cocky. Like, here we go. Let's do these spinnies. You know what I mean? And I know where I'm going. He had an ECMO. I was like, dude, no, you're in Pakistan. Do you see what I'm saying? You need an ECMO. Danny Johnson says you need an editor. You need wise counsel that's like, hey, dude, you're off track, man. You're off track. Danny wrote First Steps to Wealth, the book, and had it edited 15 times. 15 times. You need an editor. Okay? All right. Who's up? Liz?
I think we covered everything. The only thing I was going to say, add to that bucket sheet is, you know, we all gave up stuff along the way. You know what I mean? Like when you're looking at your goals and you're looking at your vision and we talked about, getting up an hour earlier or whatever, but depending on, how big your goals are, like there may be sacrifices that, you can start to consider making, like I know for me after that John Maxwell call, he was like, what are you doing with your time? And I had to be honest with myself after 2 deployments and I don't know how many workups, like I had 13 television shows that I was watching. Like 13. And Summer, you watched some of them with me. So
I gave them up, girl. I gave them up 7 years ago.
A really long time ago. But no, I was 13 and I was like, that's 13 hours of my week. Like that's insane, right? So anyway, I gave up 11 of them. And the 2 that I have left are DVR'd and saved for Friday night date night in with Addison.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, I was like, wow, so yeah, and that was hard, Addison's like, wait, we're not watching that anymore. And I'm like, nope. I got stuff to do.
Yeah, man.
Or we need to go upstairs. One of the 2. But, something more important is happening during this time period.
I love that. I love that, you guys. That thing that we posted today for you guys to get your buckets in place. Do you guys see that space underneath? Distractions that you have in your life that for a season don't make the list. For a season, Chad and I were listening to what's it called? Like we re-listened to it's not a podcast. Hold on a second. It's a service with Gary Cassie back in New Albany, Ohio, where he was talking about different seasons of your life. And the first thing you have to do is recognize the season and what fits in the season. What is the priority of the season? And then also understanding the moment and being able to step into that moment. It's the same thing that, Scott Mann talks about stepping into the moment, so you're in a season. Not only do you have to recognize the season that right now, maybe this can't exist right now, but understanding the moment and stepping into that moment. And that moment is now. It's that tap. It's that vision that's being placed on your heart and stepping into it, that moment within the season, and be able to taking action in that moment with those priorities. Does that make sense? So in different seasons, you might have different priorities. I mean, when your kids grow up and they're in college, there's different, you might rearrange things. You know what I'm saying? But in your season, what are your priorities? You know what I mean? And rearranging and making sure that your daily tasks every day align with those things. Being able to step back and look at what you did today and saying, like, what does not align with what I did today? You know what I mean? Some of you guys are spending way too much time in phase 4, which Danny has a very special name for phase 4. And I'm not going to repeat it. You guys will have to come to Monday's First Steps to Success to see what she calls phase 4. But that's phase where you're dragging people and putting you on your back and pulling people and dealing with all the gossip and all the drama and all that kind of stuff. That's phase 4. That doesn't make you crap. Doesn't do anything but cause you stress. Phase 1, is where you develop your vision. And you have to really look at yourself and ask yourself where your time is being spent. Are you dragging people because you want it more than them? Or are you loving them right where they're at, providing the simple business plan and the system for them to succeed, and then allowing them to step into it? How many of you guys are guilty of trying to make people succeed? Because you own their success. Because you're like, when they succeed, you're like, yes. But what happens when they fail? You own that too. You can't separate the two, okay? So what starts to happen? What starts to happen when you're building your business and people aren't succeeding as fast as you think they should? However, remember how I opened this webinar. Don't forget where you came from. It took me 16 months to actually do anything with this business. I do not get to bitch at anybody until 16 months passes of them doing nothing. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like counting it down like they're on month. Okay, now I can start complaining. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't get to, you know, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget if you've stopped drinking, that how long it took you to stop drinking, or if you stopped smoking, or how long you yo-yo dieted, or how long you ate this or did this or struggled with this. Do you know what I mean? Don't forget where you came from and give the same grace that it was owed to you to help you succeed. Does that make sense? And so don't forget that piece of the puzzle. Okay, so stay in phase 1. Give your team, your challengers, the grace to progress. This business is built on people, lots of people doing little things, like Danny says, and then having those small victories, and their vision grows, and they start to believe in themselves a little bit more. They start to have some victories, and they start to say, why not me? That takes time. Start trying to press where you're at on top of someone. Can you guys imagine if right now, when I brought coaches in, I was like, you should want to make 7 figures. That's on top of you. You know what I mean? I mean, how many of you can even fathom that, right? Don't forget where you came from. Think about that when you're running social media. Think about that when your coaches aren't doing Like a Boss training. Think about that when they're resisting going to Danny. Think about that when they're not going to Summit. How many of you guys went to your first Summit? I didn't. I made every excuse. So how dare I talk to my coaches, be like, they won't do anything. You know what I mean? Don't forget where you came from. Give them the same grace that you were owed as you were growing. Help them have small victories and keep adding to your team. And they sift down that funnel, like Danny said. I mean, think about that funnel, that Lexus funnel, okay? People come, they check out the car. Not everybody takes the test drive. Some people take the test drive and they don't buy the car. Does that make sense? Like, do you know what I mean? How many of you guys have drove a car but didn't buy the car, right? And some of you came back. And some of you guys, I bought a Cadillac Escalade, sold it. I don't want it. Did Cadillac Escalade fold? Were they like, oh, the Tuckers, we must have a shit product? Do you know what I mean? No. You know what I mean? They keep going. You know what I mean? People keep sifting down. You know what I mean? And you love them right where they're at. And as you do that, you grow a great, awesome, amazing tribe that is moving in their vision and growing little by little and building in confidence and building in vision and building in belief and building in connection, which is what you need to take them to that next level. So Erin, Liz, do you guys have anything left to say to this amazing team?
No, just thank you for listening.
Yes. Anything, Erin?
No, I just, you guys, like, just be intentional, give yourself some grace, but don't give yourself the ability to just use well-planned lies.
Oh, there you go. Well-planned lies. We all have had them, right? Let me give you guys a script really quick when it comes to coaches that aren't moving through the Like a Boss training. How many of you guys have coaches that don't move through the Like a Boss training frequent, like at the speed that you believe that they should, which is faster than you did? You know what I mean? So when they aren't moving through the Like a Boss training, right? They are telling you what intensity and at what level they want to run this business. They are vetting themselves out. As Danny says, some coaches fire themselves through their, let's just combine Maxwell and Danny. They're quacking. They're not having any action. Does that make sense? It doesn't mean you come down hard on them, right? But it just means your attention goes, no, I'm going to love you right where you're at. How can I help you? How can I serve you in a challenge group? I'm going to come over here. Have you guys ever had a child that is just like quacking so loud, and there's this other really well-behaved, your other child's like, hey, mom, like, pay attention to me. Can I have a little attention? But all your attention's on this child that's quacking a whole bunch. I'm guilty. You know what I mean? Like, what if we just said, hey, you need to, I'm going to let you sit over here for a second, and I'm going to play with this one over here, right? Why? Why do we go over here and play with the one that's causing all kind of chaos instead of saying, like, hey, you need a little time out. I'm going to let you have your space. I'm going to let you have a little small victory over here with your Legos, and I'm going to play trains over here. Guys, think about that. Okay, it honors both of them. We're not in the people-pleasing business. We're in the business of loving people. Okay? And loving people is loving them right where they're at, and a system allows people to do that. Does that make sense? Okay, so continue to add to your team, love people where they're at, keep directing them back to the simple business plan, direct them back to the tribe and love them, and keep adding to your team. And people start to sift down as they have small victories. And that's exactly how this business works. And when you do it that way, with love and grace and honor, they stick with you because they feel respected. Okay? And now they're moving through the system, and they're having their small victories, and they're seeing their why not me stories in the people in the tribe. So you guys, Liz and Erin, thank you so much for helping them redefine success. I hope those of you are fighting that worldly success that we see marched across that stage sometimes, and that you have the courage to sit down and really look at what you want your life to look like, what you want your calendar to look like, what are your 5 priorities, what keeps those full, and then have the courage to honor those. And I tell you, if you do that in those 5 areas, your life will thrive in all areas. And when you are at your last second, where Scott Mann talks about where someone's holding your hand and you're thinking about your tracks, you're going to feel very much at peace, and you're going to look at that person in the eyes, and you're going to know that you left your tracks the same way that Rex Mann looked at Scott that day in his chemo chair and said, look, Scotty Doodle. Isn't that what he said? Scotty Doodle. I left my tracks, man. That's what we're all after. That kind of peace. And this right here is your vessel, and this is your team to get there. You guys have an awesome night. Thank you so much for being you. I so much appreciate every single one of you. I love you. You make me a better me. Stay hungry. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.